I'd like to thank the organizers at the All India Institute of Ayurveda for organizing this CME on integrative oncology and inviting me to speak on head and neck cancers. So this is a very important topic, and I again thank Dr. Tanuja, Director, for giving me this opportunity to talk about these cancers. So I'll just share my slides in a minute, and then we are ready to go. So I'll be speaking on the epidemiology and prevention of head and neck cancers. So the head and neck cancers are usually begin in the squamous cells that line the mucosal surface of the head and neck, and they are usually referred to as squamous cell carcinomas of the head and neck. They can, however, they can also begin the salivary glands, sinuses, muscles, or nerves in the head and neck region. But these type of cancers are much less common. So what we are going to talk is mostly about the squamous cell carcinomas of the head and neck region. As you can see in this picture, the head and neck region comprises of a large number of small organs, like the soft palate, hard palate, anterior tongue, lips, floor of the mouth, gum, salivary glands, and the nasopharynx, uvula, tonsils, oropharynx, base of the tongue, posterior pharyngeal wall, lingual tonsils, and hypopharynx. And these head and neck squamous cell carcinomas, this map shows the data of Globocan 2018, and it shows the age standardized rates across the world. And as you can see, the ones in the dark blue have more than 10.7 per lakh population. And India, again, as you can see, is in the dark blue region. So the prevalence is pretty high as compared to the rest of the world. And also important to note is that the head and neck squamous cell carcinomas are the 6th most common cancers worldwide, and nearly 9 lakh new cases and 4.5 lakh deaths. So nearly 50% of the people who have this cancer die every year. So and also that the incidence is anticipated to be increasing day by day, and by 30% in 2030. So we'll have nearly 1 million plus new cases every year. The men are at 2 to 4 times higher risk than women for developing these cancers. And also, to note that in the Southeast Asia region and Australia, because of the consumption of specific products which contain carcinogens, this type of cancer is very high as compared to the USA and the Western Europe. The median age for developing these cancers is 66 years, but when it is associated with HPV or Epstein-Barr virus, the age is younger, that is 53 years or 50 years. It has been seen that the survival for head and neck squamous cell carcinomas has increased over the past 3 decades, and the 5-year survival has increased from 55% to 66% across all registries. However, in the larynx, if the carcinoma is in the larynx, the survival rate is not very high, and also not much progress has been made in the survival rate over the years. It is also noted that the HPV-associated head and neck squamous cell carcinomas have a better survival than those which are HPV negative. And noteworthy is that these patients with these cancers, they have a lot of psychological distress, and the quality of life is really compromised, and so they also have a high rate of suicide. This figure shows the burden of this disease in India, and also you can see that the number of cases by 5-year age group shows that in the age group of 60 to 64 years, there is the highest number of cases there. And as with any other cancer, this cancer is also projected to increase over the years. This again, data is from our sister institute in Bangalore, NCDIR, which shows the annual percentage change in age-adjusted incidence rates over the period of time. And the figure is for males as well as for females. And you can see that the red depict the increase in the annual percent change, and the greens depict the decrease in the annual percent change. And the change is of a significant value in the cities of Aurangabad for males, and Delhi, Chennai, Bhopal, significant increase. And significant decrease for males is in the Barshi rural area and in Mumbai. Whereas for the females, the significant increase is in Nagpur, and a significant decrease is in Kollam district and Bangalore, and also Mumbai. So what are the risk factors of head and neck squamous cell carcinomas? Number one is tobacco use. So it could be smoking as well as use of smokeless tobacco and use of areca nut. Alcohol consumption also predisposes one to these cancers, and also a diet which is poor in vitamins can increase the risk. Human papillomavirus infection is also being recognized as a common risk factor. Those with poor oral hygiene and infection with Epstein-Barr virus also raises the risk of head and neck cancer. Also, those people who have a pre-malignant lesion in the mouth, known as the dysplastic oral leukoplakia, they have almost a 30% increased risk of oral cancer at even 10 years after treatment. And then some individuals with rare diseases such as Fanconi anemia, Plummer-Vinson syndrome, and Li-Fraumeni syndrome, they also have a high incidence of head and neck cancers. So this slide shows that amongst the 30 to 50% of the cancers which are preventable, the tobacco-related cancers are nearly 40%, infection-related are 15%, and lifestyle-related are obesity, which are obesity, sedentary lifestyle, and use of alcohol. They're about 10% of cancers. So a lot of head and neck cancers belong to this category of preventable cancer. So that's the good news. Now, a little few slides about tobacco. So what is tobacco? Because this is a known risk factor for head and neck squamous cell carcinomas. So tobacco is a plant which was indigenous to the Americas, and it was brought to Europe by Columbus, and from there it came to India in the 16th century AD. Its leaves contain high levels of addictive chemical, which is called nicotine. And when you process these leaves, a lot of cancer-causing chemicals are produced, which are called polyaromatic hydrocarbons. And these leaves can be used in the form of cigarettes, cigars, and pipes where they are smoked. And you can also make products and apply them on the gums or inhale them as snuff. So nicotine is extracted from these leaves, and they are also used for these nicotine replacement therapies. So the different types of smoking tobacco products, which are cigarette, bidi, chuttas, hookah, heated tobacco products, e-cigarettes, pipes, cigars, and so on and so forth. And the different types of smokeless tobacco products, you all know, chewing tobacco like gutka, kheni, zarda, sada patta, gul, mishri, mawa, and the rest. So these are all examples of smokeless tobacco products. So the tobacco industry has really innovated itself to producing different kinds of products. And as you can see in this slide, there are more than 7,000 chemical compounds and more than 60 carcinogens which are there in the cigarette smoke. And so really every part of the cigarette is dangerous. And also the cigarette stub, which is left over, that also has a lot of harmful substances. Similarly, in smokeless tobacco also, it contains a variety of chemical compounds which are carcinogens. The slide shows here that tobacco not only causes cancer in the head and neck region, but also in other parts of the body. So as you can see here, of course, mouth and throat is there, larynx is also there, then esophagus, lungs, bronchus, trachea, liver, stomach, pancreas, colon, rectum, then urinary bladder, uterine cervix, kidney, renal pelvis, and also acute myeloid leukemia are associated with use of tobacco. And nearly 40% of the cancers diagnosed in the USA are linked to tobacco use. So nicotine not only is gives rise to it also gives rise to other harmful effects on the body systems, and it almost affects all body parts. So you can have carotid artery disease, you can have cerebrovascular disease, stroke, TIA, which is transient ischemic attack, dementia, and even Alzheimer's. Myocardial infarction, of course, is all known to many of you. It can also cause arrhythmias. Then atherosclerotic disease of the aorta, not only aorta, so other major arteries like the mesenteric artery. Then can also cause impotence and infertility. It can also cause renal artery stenosis and renovascular disease. So then the hypertension is like resistant hypertension, chronic kidney disease. Even the peripheral vessels get affected, leading to claudication and non-healing ulcers, and may lead to amputation. So it really affects all body parts. So just to show that how harmful nicotine and tobacco are. So what are the other harmful effects of tobacco? It also leads to secondhand smoke, which affects other family members, especially children. And the women who are pregnant have a high risk of miscarriages and complications during pregnancy, and damage to fetal lung and brain. And there's increased chance of preterm delivery, low birth weight babies, sudden infant death syndrome, and congenital deformities, including cleft lip. The other effects on the body are poor mental health, irritability, mood swings, anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia. Their poor relationships with their families, and high incidence of broken marriages, separation, and family conflicts. Then, of course, it's not good for environment. It leads to loss of biodiversity, soil erosion, water pollution. Substantial use of pesticides is done to increase the tobacco production. So all these harmful substances in the cigarette butts like arsenic, lead, nicotine, they also lead to environmental pollution. Then this just to show that what is the prevalence of tobacco consumption in India. And it is nearly 1 in every 4 person consumes tobacco. And the figures are different for men and women. And also you can see what is the annual economic burden of different diseases which are attributable to tobacco use in 2017-18. And as per the WHO, the burden on global economy in healthcare costs and productivity each year is $1.4 trillion US, which are lost for tobacco. Let us come to the good news. What is the benefit of tobacco cessation? So the dramatic benefit which is there after quitting tobacco is on the cardiovascular system. Within 20 minutes, the blood pressure and the body temperature and the pulse rate return to normal. Within 24 hours, the risk of myocardial infarction, that is heart attack, decreases. And within 1 year, the risk of coronary heart disease is half that of a person who had who smokes. And at 5 to 15 years, the stroke risk is reduced to half, to that of someone who's never smoked. And within 15 years, the coronary heart disease risk is similar to the person who has never used tobacco. On the other body parts, after 48 hours, that is 2 days, your nerve endings adjust to the absence of nicotine and the ability to taste and smell is regained. 2 to 3 months, circulation improves, exercise tolerance improves, and within 1 to 9 months, overall energy level increases, the cough is less, and sinus congestion, fatigue, shortness of breath is decreased. And after 10 years, the risk of dying from lung cancer drops to almost the same rate as that of a lifelong non-smoker. And also it decreases the risk of other cancers, tobacco-related cancers in the body. So therefore, there is a global effort to control tobacco, and the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which is the WHO FCTC, has made this international public health treaty, which focuses on tobacco control. And the two main principles are to reduce demand of tobacco and then to reduce supply of tobacco. So nearly it was India ratified it as soon as it was created, that is in 2004, and currently there are more than 181 countries which are party to this treaty. The key principles or key areas of tobacco control policy are banning tobacco advertisement, sponsorship and promotion, creation of smoke-free places, and then we should also say tobacco-free places, so that it includes smokeless tobacco as well, putting out health warnings in the form of pictorial labels on the packages, and removing the misleading packaging and labeling like light or low tar. Such kind of signs are prohibited. However, regarding disclosure, it is not really taken up in India at least. Then there are sales restrictions that one cannot sell tobacco products to minors or ask them to sell these tobacco products, and within 100 yards of any educational institute, one cannot sell tobacco. Then there are policies for increasing taxation on tobacco products. And the government of India has this Act of Cigarettes and Other Tobacco Products Prohibition of Advertisement and Regulation and Commerce. This was formed in 2003. And it has various sections on it, and it is supposed to be undergoing amendments, and they had called for suggestions on this. The other efforts which the country is doing is in the form of National Tobacco Control Program, and that is where in all these areas the people in the Ayurveda stream of medicine can also contribute to the national program. And this was launched in the year 2007 and 8, and to facilitate the prevention and control of tobacco. So it is through this program that it's a 3-tiered program at the district level, state level, and national level. And there are helplines and quit lines for helping people to reach the services for tobacco cessation. And our institute, that is NICPR, is a global supports the global efforts for tobacco control, and we have the knowledge hub on smokeless tobacco, where we do research and inform policy regarding various I should say topics on how to control smokeless tobacco, because smokeless tobacco is especially common in the Southeast Asia region. And so we organize different seminars and bring out publications and inform the government and policy. We also do outreach activities where, again, this is an area where we can have different integrated approaches with the Ayurveda Institute. Now, coming to alcohol, which is also a very common cause of head and neck cancers. Nearly 30% of the Indian population consumes alcohol in some form or the other, and different, I would say, amount. And also that the per capita consumption of alcohol is rising. It contributes to nearly 4% of cancers worldwide, and as you can see in the diagram, not only the upper throat and mouth, larynx, esophagus, liver and bowel. In women, breast cancer is also an important risk factor if the women are consuming alcohol. And we published one paper on where we mapped the triple burden of smoking, smokeless tobacco and alcohol consumption in the different 640 districts of the country. And you can see in the diagram, in the map, the upper ones show the alcohol consumption among men and among women, and the lower two maps show the any form of substance abuse, that is smokeless tobacco or alcohol or smoking. So the red ones show a higher incidence of the consumption of any of these substances, and you can see that in 80 districts of India, more than half of the adult men consume alcohol. In 245 districts, between 30 to 50% of men consume alcohol. And if we take 10% as the cutoff, considering that it is a public health problem, then almost all districts of the country have crossed this threshold. So this is really going to be a big challenge for us to control tobacco and alcohol. Now coming to the HPV infection, HPV-related cancers. So we know that apart from cervical cancer, the anal, vulval, vaginal, penile, and oropharyngeal cancers are also due to HPV infection. Again, the oropharyngeal cancers are also associated with high-risk HPV types, which is the 16 and 18. And so it can definitely be prevented by using HPV vaccine, as in the case of cervical cancer. And here there are other preventable risk factors of cancers due to HPV. So essentially, for prevention of head and neck cancers, tobacco cessation program needs to be, the reach and sustainability of this tobacco cessation program has to be taken up seriously. The alcohol consumption should be reduced, and then protection against HPV infection by using safe sex practices and getting the vaccine can be done. And also, if people are exposed to occupational hazards, such as where the toxic fumes and dusts are, then they should have preventive face masks and air filtration procedures where this exposure can be reduced to a minimum. Currently, there are no screening methods that have been proven to increase the survival rates of the squamous cell carcinomas of the head and neck. However, one can do a physical examination of the neck, oropharynx, and the mouth as a part of routine dental examination, but there's no data to suggest that this will reduce mortality. Oral screening is currently included in the National Cancer Control Program, and at least those cancers which are due to the oral pre-malignant lesions of the mouth can be looked in carefully and followed up so that they do not develop into cancers. And of course, the offending agents should be stopped. And these lesions are also subject to biopsy, and so this can also be done. However, results of the screening, if they are false positive or false negative, then either they lead to anxiety or to false reassurance, neither of which is good. And sometimes the insignificant lesions are picked up and treated, so that is also not very desirable. So one should also focus on dietary and lifestyle modification for prevention of head and neck cancers, which includes good oral hygiene and brushing teeth after every meal, reduces the risk of these cancers. Diet rich in fruits, vegetables, also reduces the risk of these cancers, and fried food, high fat and processed meats and sweets increase the likelihood of laryngeal cancers. So one should avoid these. And there are, of course, various studies which have been quoted here, which all of which indicate that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables is always protective. So in conclusion, a multifaceted approach is needed to reduce the burden of cancers, including head and neck cancers, and integrating health education, tobacco and alcohol control, and early detection of these cancers. Improving the awareness amongst the public and the primary care practitioners, investing in health services to provide screening and early diagnosis for services for tobacco and alcohol users can lead to early detection of these cancers. And along with that, we have to improve our imaging, histopathology, cancer surgery, radiotherapy, and infrastructure with trained professionals. So all these can also lead to decreasing the morbidity and mortality from these cancers. So thank you very much for your attention.